Huge amount of money is spent every year developing and launching new products, but only a small percentage of these prove to be successful and have a long shelf life. Are you curious about what product managers really do? Are you wondering how one becomes a product manager? Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to Career with Kalpi. I hope all of you are keeping safe. In the last 3 sessions, we've learned about sales and marketing, journalism, and communication skills in leadership role. In today's session, we learn about product management. We have a very special guest with us today, Anjali Kumari, who's the Senior Director and India Product Head at ThoughtSpot. ThoughtSpot is a next generation platform for enterprises and is a leader in search and AI-driven analytics. Anjali leads user experience and product management teams at ThoughtSpot India. She also serves in the global product execution team. She has 14 years of experience with 8+ years of experience in product development across multiple firms, before which she was on the engineering side for a couple of years. She earned a master's degree in computer science from Purdue University and an MBA from India School of Business. Hi, Anjali. Thank you very much for taking out the time to be on this series. I'm sure this is going to be an extremely useful session for a lot of people. So first of all,
Kalpi.
We want to know more about your career journey and specifically the transition from engineering and development side to product management, because that is what a lot of folks ask, how to transition from engineering and development to product management.
Right. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity, Kalpi. It's been great to see your passion towards learning from different leaders and sharing those learnings as well. So thank you so much. Talking about my own journey, as you rightly pointed out, I started my career as an engineer. I started working for Symphony Services back in 2005. And since then, I've been associated with product companies. After a year, I moved to US, and in the US, I moved to Box.com. I joined the company when it was very, very small. I actually joined the company as the 8th employee. So before Box, my world of product development and product companies was only around building the product, right? Box is where I got the different exposure to different functions that exist in a company, in an organization. What do these functions do? For example, what does product marketing do? What does product management do? How sales function? Because I was part of such a small organization, I got to interact with so many people and learn together. And that was pretty interesting. And that was the time when I got really interested in product management, right? That's when I started thinking about, how should I get into product management from engineering domain? I had multiple ways of getting into it. One obvious way was moving internally. And I think that's a very good option as well for most of the people who are looking to move into this field. But what I did, because I had also the pressure of moving back to India as soon as possible because my parents were alone here. So I decided personally to join ISP and then delve into the product management field. So this was back in 2012, and since then I have been in product management and I'm loving it. Almost amongst all the experiences that you have seen in my career, I would sort of call out Capillary Technologies, where the product management experience has given me the best of the lot. And the reason I say that is because I joined Capillary Technologies primarily as managing one product and the analytics product platform. And eventually I moved into the role of, completely taking over the entire product, managing the entire product management team. So that was quite a phenomenal journey and quite satisfying as well. So yeah, so that's where that's how I moved into product management, and I'm happy I did.
Got it. Thank you. That's awesome. So I think next question is a little bit related. I know that product management lies at the core of user experience, technology, and business. And it requires multiple skill sets, from data analytics to product design to essentially anything which doesn't have an owner.
Correct.
So how has that experience been for you working with multiple firms and teams? And I also want to know a little bit on today that you are at such a senior position, being the India head and senior director. how does that transition has happened, and how's your typical day to day at work?
Yeah, sure, sure. So absolutely, as you rightly pointed out, that PM, actually product managers are quite versatile. I believe the core responsibility of a product manager is to make the product successful, right? And when you look at this particular role, it varies from different product organization to different product organization. It
Yeah.
depends on the stage of the organization as well. In an early stage startup, the responsibilities will be slightly different. In a more established organization, it will be slightly different.
Yeah.
Right? So apart from the core PM skills, for example, how do you think about the product? How do you solve the problem? How do you get to the root of the customer pain point, right? How do you track metrics? These are some of the core PM skills. But apart from that, I strongly believe in the fitment of the product managers along with the team and the company. Fitment, as I mentioned, it varies a lot from different type of organization, from stages, etc. And therefore, it is very important for a leader to hire the right fitment for their teams, for their organizations. To give you an example, I once had a product manager, excellent product manager. Like if you interview him, you would love him. At the same time, we had a great engineering leader who was leading the same product. But as a combination, they just couldn't figure out how to work it together. And that was a disaster because the result was we spent a whole lot of money on the product, but with no real outcomes. So it is very, very critical to literally look for fitment, the right fitment for the teams. And let me tell you, it actually can vary from team to team as well. If you're hiring for a platform product management team, he needs to be slightly more technical. He needs to be able to converse with the engineering team in their own language, right? Whereas if you're looking at a B2B application where business users use your application, you need to be able to break down the problem. You need to be able to go into the depth of what the core problem you're solving, and will the customer pay money for it, right? So there are different sort of skill set required at different not just stages but even teams as well as organizations, right? Startups typically the startups do not have clear-cut product management process, and what the kind of people you're looking for is people who can get things done very, very quickly. They can quickly gel with the different team members and quickly get things done. You have to iterate faster in a startup world, whereas in the case of a larger organization where the processes are well established, you're essentially looking for someone who can go deep thinking. They can take their own time, but they build the best product out of the entire, and the expectation from large organization are also very high, right? So you need to manage that very, very well.
Right. And probably the kind of products would also be very different. So in a large organization, absolutely, it might be just a little bit of a tweaking on a feature versus a smaller organization who are involving you in end-to-end, product launch for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's one suggestion for even the PMs, right? When you look for a new opportunity or a job opportunity in different organization, you should also look for fitment for yourself. There is a certain personality that you have, right? And you need to figure out for the teams that you are going to work for, has a very similar or, a complementary skill sets, right? I've seen a lot of engineering folks. Some of the engineering leaders are very, very good in, breaking the problems. At that time, you will probably require a complementary skill where, so you are thinking of a product, so you're focusing only on the product, whereas the engineering leader is actually breaking the product problem down and helping the product manager define the milestones very well.
Right.
So it's very, very important that the chemistry works really well, right?
I think which is why, sorry to speak in the middle, but which is why I think it suggests that you should, if you are looking to get into a company, you should get coffees with as many people as you can. Just understand if you'll fit well, if you'll gel well there or not.
Correct. Yeah. So I think I agree. When you're hiring, you should, and especially for product manager or senior leaders position, you should definitely take them out on casual meetings as well, not just focused on technical meetings. It just tells a lot about the person, and it just helps you figure out the fitment. So yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. And then second part of that was that now that you are at such a senior position, being the senior director, how is a typical day for you, and how has it changed from your earlier days as product manager?
Yeah, sure. It has actually changed a lot. Like when in the early days, I was focused on one product, so one problem space, and therefore my most of my time, like if I have to divide it into percentages, I would say that 40% used to go in more operational roadmap planning, figuring out what should be the next release, what are the metrics, defining the metrics for the product itself, and 40 to 50% used to go into that. 20 to 30 in the execution part, which is making sure that your sprints are running on time, you have the PRDs in place, you have the necessary support from the design teams, from marketing teams, etc. And of course, the rest of the 20 to 30% used to go into reading newer stuff, and figuring out what other team members are doing, etc. Now, if you look at my sort of, spend, if I take a week, I would say it has changed quite a bit. 30 to 40% of my time goes into longer term strategic ideas. So to give you an example, as you said that, ThoughtSpot is an AI search and an AI based analytic platform. What we do here is, if you look at the world of analytics, this data storytelling is just the current view of data storytelling is just dashboards. We as a team are figuring out, what is next? How can we bring the customer or the customer who is a business user who is using our product closer to how they use this information, right? If they use it in PPT format, do they use it for different meetings? Do they use it for more collaboration and more decision making? And how can we get closer to that rather than just providing a dashboard, right? So that's one area that I have, like my team is focusing a lot on. So I spend good amount of time there in figuring out, how to solve that problem. This includes, reading about the space, understanding what is happening, what our other competitors are doing, etc. I spend a good amount of time also managing the team, doing one-on-ones, understanding the feedback they have provided. So we have Office Vibe, and every week the surveys are sent out to the team members, just understanding the pain points they have and how can I solve them. A good amount of time, 30% goes into operation stuff, making sure I review the PRDs. I go into roadmap planning with each of the product managers, making sure they're aligned across different product areas, and a small bit also in execution. So that's how my week is sort of split.
Oh.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question. But yeah,
Yes.
and it can, as I said, it can vary from different organizations to organization. But this is how currently my week goes.
Agreed, but it gives me a great insight into how roles change as you move up the ladder, how it shifts from focusing on that particular one product to managing an entire team and hopefully probably multiple products that all of them are working on, as well as also deciding the strategy of the firm itself. That makes a lot of sense. I think we were talking about engineering and development teams. So a question on that, as a product manager, and especially in your younger years, how do you gain credibility from these folks from development engineering teams?
Yeah.
Are there any
Very
tricks?
interesting question.
Are there any tricks to influence the stakeholders, given you don't have any direct managerial connect with them?
Yep. No, I completely get that. I think it's a very, very interesting question. As people say that product managers, needs to lead without authority, right? So, and that's absolutely correct. So if you look at, product managers, how they should ideally work with engineering, I think the world has moved towards a space where, everyone wants to understand how their product is being used, right? And therefore I feel that, you need to work with the engineering leaders, in fact, the QA leaders as well. I see them as a pod which work together, which has three leaders. One is the QA leader, the engineering leader, and the product manager leader. And in some cases, you can include a UX leader as well, right? And this set of 3-4 people are actually essentially partners.
Right.
And when I say partners in making the product successful, not to launch, not to build. It is a partnership to make the product successful. And therefore, your partnership should start from conception and should end only with adoption. And it should probably continue even after adoption, because you need to make sure that you are retaining the customers. So that's my sort of mantra here. You need to partner with your counterparts and make sure they understand why a particular business problem we should solve, and not why you should build this product, but rather why you should solve this business problem, right? What is the benefit that the customer is going to get? what is the benefit that your organization is going to get. You should be able to, from time to time, talk about what is the state of your product, what is the adoption level, what is the metric that you have been chasing, what is the current state of that metric, right? And it's very important to partner and make sure that they understand that, this is the reason if the metric has not moved, and therefore I'm prioritizing a particular feature to make sure that the metric moves, right? So making sure the team is aligned towards one goal is what this heads in, right?
Yeah.
Now, being partners doesn't mean that you do not have clear responsibilities. Like for me, PM owns why and what, and engineering owns how. But that doesn't mean that they cannot consult each other. And that's what I'm referring to, right? You need to be able to consult with each other, be real partners, and eventually own. So PMs own the what and why, whereas engineering owns the how, right? A couple of, to make it successful, this partnership is successful, I think what you should definitely do is be a little sensitive about, how do you deal with engineers or QA leads, right? Essentially, everyone, as I said, everyone has their own responsibility. And so therefore, you should not tell them how to do their job. You're just suggesting them while the ownership lies with them, right? They love to figure it out by themselves, right? In addition to this, the only thing that I would suggest is be available and be approachable. Don't micromanage, and just be partners.
I think those are great tips for a leadership style perspective, how you should manage a team as well. So I think that's super helpful. Moving on to a bit of a personal, questions.
Mm-hmm.
What are the metrics to determine the success of a product launch? And then for you, what was your most successful product launch?
Sure. Yeah. So I think first of all, the metrics are relevant not just till launch, but even after that, right?
Right.
So essentially, you should make sure that you are. So as I said, from conception to adoption, right? That's very, very critical, because product launch means you have launched the product, but you don't know whether the customers are using it. So it is very important that you keep that in mind. Secondly, it is much harder than you think to get to the right metric for any product, for that matter, right? The bunch of frameworks you'll find online, the bunch of material around, how do you identify the right metric? And each framework has its own advantages. But I personally like the one written and documented by Mixpanel. Just to give you a brief background about what it talks about. So it talks about the focus metric. Focus metric is typically a metric which every product team, if you have 3-4 product managers, every product manager eventually should be focusing on the focus metric. To give you an example, for ThoughtSpot, the one of the options of focus metric could be weekly active user, right? And then you can further define it into I want to track for different personas. For example, we have analysts, we have business users. Now we can further define it and say that I want to increase the weekly active user business users, right? It could also be your weekly session, active sessions, right? For example, for YouTube, if you look at a good metric that they track, is essentially the average watch time of the user. Because if you increase the watch time, essentially you will have more engagement, and therefore more and more people will come back, and then the revenue generation happens through ads. So the more time you spend on watching per user, you spend on watching the videos, the more revenue you will get. So essentially you have to come back with this focus metric. Now you go to the L1, the next level of metric, which is essentially defining how do you reach to that metric. There are many ways of reaching to that metric. For example, if you have to increase the active usage, you can add more and more customers, right? New customers. You can make sure that the customers who logged in once but did not come back again, you want to activate them. That is another way of doing that. The third way is making sure your current engaged users, you just make sure that they're engaged enough that their repeat usage increases, right? So there are multiple ways of arriving at a particular metric, rather improving a particular metric, right? Once you identify that, what is the problem that you want to solve? For example, in ThoughtSpot, we may say that, I want to increase the number of users by say 20% through a different platform altogether. For example, mobile platform. So therefore, one product team will focus on making sure you build the mobile app for the analytics platform. and making sure the adoption happens on mobile platform, right? The other could be focusing on number of objects created, number of answers or charts or visualization created. The more you create, the consumption will be higher, right? So therefore you have to, in a particular year, you have to define what is important for you and choose the metric that you want to move. You have to prioritize, because you cannot move all the metrics. So pick the ones that are most relevant in that year and focus on that. And that process brings you to L2 metric that PMs eventually own. So that's how we typically define the product metrics. As I mentioned, there are many framework available, and it really depends on, you can experiment with different frameworks and figure out, this is what works for us. Right? So that's how we have broken down. I think there was a second part of the question as well, which is, the most, right. That's a tough one. But if I have to pick one, I would rather pick, at Capillary Technologies, we built the analytics platform, which was the backbone of all the products or the customer facing or business user facing applications. Essentially what we did was, we made sure that our product was scaled to handle more and more customer bases, right? And more and more customer sort of sending messages. So Capillary, if you understand the domain, it's a CRM platform for retailers. And retailers reach out to their customer on occasions, on special occasions like Diwali or festivals, or by looking at behavior of the customers. Now your system has to scale so that you can support eventually larger number of customers. That had a direct impact on our focus metric, which was the average number of customers you reach out to every month per brand. So that is what I will pick as the most successful product that I have launched. And
awesome.
It's also backed by many failures. So
yeah, so I think which is going to be my next question, that even after all of these focused metrics, everything that a firm or product managers do, products do fail. So how are product failures seen in the firms? For example, what is the reaction of senior management if product fail, and how do you deal with it?
Right. So let me give you some interesting stats there, and you may be already aware of that. 90% of new startups fail. That's a given, right?
Yeah.
Under 50% actually see the 5th year, and actually only 33% see the 10th year. So if you look at this kind of sort of funnel, if you may call it, this is well aware. Like senior managers are well aware of this metric, right? So in the essence, for any product manager, there's a quite of failure you will see before you have one sort of success, like super successful product, right, in your kitty. So it's very important to understand this, that failures are important for you to iterate. It helps you in many ways, and I'll explain you how it helps. Now, say for example, I'm trying to solve a particular business problem. Now I have partial information because I interview certain customers, I read about some stuff on the internet, and I figure out, okay, this is where the market is heading towards. Right, I have some understanding of the persona that we cater to, and then basis that I create certain hypothesis, and basis that hypothesis, either I build a prototype and test it out in the market, which typically doesn't happen because you don't have time. You really want to get to the product itself. So therefore you define the concept of minimum viable product, right? So you build that minimal viable product for your customers and figure out if it's working or not. Now that's not the end of this story, right? You learn from the mistakes that you have done in MVP. It could be successful, it could be a failure, it could be a partially successful. Now those learnings now comes together, and you have, so the understanding that you had initially, your understanding is gone up by certain percentage because you tested the product in the market, right? And with that learning, you actually present that learning and figure out what should be your next step. Either you completely drop the product, or you do certain enhancements which will eventually help you move the metric, or you take certain steps, right? As long as you're objective about this and you're transparent about, why are you taking certain decisions, senior managers will not hold you responsible for the failure. Failures are not necessarily failures. They are learning opportunities for, not just for you, but even for the company, even for the senior managers. So it's very, very important that you give the objectivity and, sort of learn from each of your mistakes and present those mistakes so that it to the collective intelligence of the entire company. That is what senior managers are looking for. They're not looking for like 100% success rate on your products. Right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So apart from these, there are also a few questions that our audience wanted to ask you. So I've collected those, and I'll probably modify them a little bit. So Manashi asks, a big problem today is to get accurate market feedback. How do product managers know what's happening ground up exactly, cutting above the noise of feedback, business issues, product evangelism, etc.?
Yeah. So I think partially I covered it in the previous question.
Yeah.
My short answer to that question is you will never know everything. Never.
Yeah.
Like absolutely never, right? And I think therefore, like, I have certain sort of non-negotiables when I hire for a product manager for that kind of a role. And one of them is decision making. You have to, as a product manager, be it engineering team, be it your senior managers, be it your marketing team, they're looking for this role as a decision making role. And a lot of decision making happens with partial information, right? And it's not important that you have to take the right decision all the time. It is important that you take the decisions quickly. If you fail, then you iterate over it, right? So essentially what I'm trying to tell you is that market feedback and your, what is going on in the market, etc. What is the exact feedback? There's so much noise from different teams. Your account management team is asking for right information, or rather they're asking to build a particular feature, right? There's so much noise. Now, how do you synergize between the different teams and different information and get to the right decision, or decision actually, let me call it decision, so that you can move quickly is what you should be looking at, right?
Got it.
You have to iterate on the product, and as you iterate, you continue to collect more and more information, more and more data, and improvise on the product. That is the way to be the right, like a great product manager, in my opinion, right? That's how you build a great product. So that's my suggestion. Do not look for all the information. You have to use your gut, but an informed gut information.
Yeah.
So you use certain data and then you move forward, right?
Yeah.
And your hypothesis will go wrong. Be open to that and be open to learn from them.
Yeah, got it. Another question from Swati is that what does one aim for when looking for a product role? Do they look for growth in the firm or the products they are interested in? So maybe we ask you, like, while switching through roles, what were you looking for?
Right. Well, I believe that every individual's ambitions are very different, and they're also very different at different stages of your career. Right. So to just give you an example of, how I sort of moved into different organizations and what was I looking at. When I chose Capri Technologies, frankly, I was new to India work environment, and I was also new to product management. I was only 1 year experience back then, like into product management, right? So at that time, I was only looking at, an organization that has a good sort of product management practices where I can learn. So my objective was to learn, right? When I started looking after 6 years, spending 6-7 years, and I actually saw a phenomenal growth there because I started handling many products, from one product to many products. At ThoughtSpot, my ambition was very different. I wanted to work for a company which was more, which had a proven sort of market need, right? And I also wanted to work for, a second time entrepreneur, because so I love working in startups and I wanted to stay in startup. So that was definitely there. What I wanted to see is that, what can further increase my sort of, for the lack of better word, value in the market, right? And that was that, I have been dealing with products, which is, sort of partially managed services, because we had, in Capillary, we had teams who would use the product to serve the customers. It was not necessarily self-serve till the time I was there. We were trying to move to self-serve, but not fully there, right? And I wanted to work for a company which had a kick-ass product and, which was used by the customers themselves. It was more of a truly product company, right? That was my ambition. And second was that I wanted to work for second-time entrepreneur, because in my first company, rather not first company, in Capillary Technologies, I was learning quite a bit on my own, right? And I wanted to see that, if there is established organization where we have, as for a second-time entrepreneur, typically what happens is they know that, you need product marketing team right from the beginning. They sort of know that, how should they structure the product management team, etc. So now that I have done all that, Now let me go into the core product management and see that if a product is being used by the business users themselves, like what are the traits and what are the metrics that you should be tracking, etc. So that is what I was looking at. One thing was very constant, and both the thing was like I love growth. I literally want to see myself growing, and for me, growth is managing more and more product at the same time. Whereas for someone else, it could be more towards figuring out the different kind of product. For example, a few candidates that I interviewed for ThoughtSpot, they were interested in this space, and therefore they wanted to come to ThoughtSpot.
Yeah.
So it's very different for different people, and at different stages it will vary. Yeah, so it's really depends on how you want to see your career grow. A lot of PMs I have observed is like they are very, very good in IC rules. Like no matter how how experienced they are, they would rather handle complex product than grow as into a managerial role. For me, it was a clear-cut path because I'm very good with people. I've sort of proven myself in building, and I'm also very good at building the team, identifying which kind of product managers is needed for what kind of team, mentoring them, etc. So that was my career path.
Awesome. We have one last question for you, because there are a large number of applicants for product management, and I think today even for senior roles. How can our audience stand out while applying for these product management roles or the some senior leadership roles?
Sure. Right. I think whether it is senior role and a non-senior role as well, I think for every product manager, it is important to focus on impact. Right? What is the impact that you have generated for the organizations that you have worked for? Right? That actually goes a long way. Like when I read a resume, when I read a profile, and I see that there is a quantifiable measure where they have quantified that this is the benefit that was there when they were at a particular organization, that just makes me feel that the person is really sort of metric driven, right?
Yeah.
The other skill set I feel is that you'll find that a lot of these product management basic structures are available online. There are a bunch of frameworks available, right? What we're looking for is how many of them you have applied in your real life and made sure that that framework works for that organization, right? So you need to be able to apply your learnings into a more practical sort of version, right? And apart from that, I like for product managers specifically, it actually goes with any role. I look for self-driven people. They need to be a really good problem solver. So I strongly believe that in product management, it is not about identifying the right product, but it is more about identifying the right customer pain point to solve, right? The customer pain point that the customers will pay for, right? So it is very important that they are problem solvers. They go into the deep depth of the problem, figure out what is the core pain point that you should be solving, right? And decision makers, as I mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So these are some of the non-negotiables for me when I hire for a PM role. For senior executives, I think mostly if I hire a senior executive, and this is true for startup because I've been part of startups, I look for versatile people because I think you need to know how to work with different personalities, and therefore if you yourself are not versatile, it becomes very difficult for people to have trust in you.
Yeah.
Right. I look for very open and transparent leaders because I think that's a core of building trust between your team and yourself, and that takes you a long way. In fact, I've been quite transparent and open for the necessary things, and even if it is about I don't know about anything, I'm very open about it. That yes, I don't know about it, and let's figure out how to solve it. Right. So I think some of those things helps a lot. So I would suggest that these are some of the traits that I look for in product managers, whether senior or junior. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the wonderful insights into product management space, into career transitions into product management, as well as leadership skills. How does one transition into senior executive roles? Folks, my few takeaways from this conversation are the following, and you'll have to watch the entire video to get to know these amazing gems that Anjali has provided. But few key takeaways. While looking for a product management role, do check out the fitment with the team, with the organization, at what stage the organization is. Are you a good fit? Talk to them informally to figure that out. Product managers, engineers, developers, QA, the entire team is our partners in making the product successful. And it goes from conception to launch to adoption to retention with the customers. It doesn't stop with launching a product. A few things that you should keep in mind while applying, for a product management role and also highlighting your skills in your resume are: what is the impact that you've created in your previous organizations? Decision making. Are you a problem solver? How can you show that on your resume and while conversing with your future interviewers? So those are my takeaways. Thank you again, Anjali, for breaking down product management for our audience so beautifully. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm sure you enjoyed the conversation thoroughly as much as I did. Please let us know in comments if there are any questions that you want to ask on product management, or if there is any other career path that you want to know more about. Stay tuned to Career with Kalpi. Keep safe. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye, Kalpi. Thank you.